This hour of the Alan Autry Show is sponsored by Simlaw, the most realistic artificial grass in the Central Valley.
From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable. We are alive. We are
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KLT.
And welcome to Thunderous Thursdays, the Alan Autry Show, No Retreat. So honored and humbled to have you with us today, whether you're listening through the old school radio, the TuneIn app, or just right from that radio in your car or at home, or you're viewing through Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Man, we are everywhere. Thank you for tuning in. So happy to have you with us today, and so disappointed in what I saw last night. You know, I'd heard that there was going to be a Republican debate happen last night, and that Fox was going to cover it, and CNN was going to cover it. And so 6 o'clock, I tune in, and much to my disappointment, there was no real debate there. It was just Jerry Springer reruns. So I was just really disappointed. And in fact, there was no Jerry Springer, a voice of reason, even in the particular episode. All right, I'll take my tongue out of my cheek. And there's no way, gosh, you can't put lipstick on a pig. That Republican debate last night. Listen, I lean conservative. This country cannot stand 4 more years of Biden. It's very questionable whether it can withstand a year and a half more of these crazy policies. We are in crisis in so many areas, from the border to the war raging in Ukraine, and inflation and crime in the streets, everything else in between. And even the overwhelming number of Democrats say we have to make a change. But I can't, even as desperate as I am to see change made, I can't look at those 7 candidates last night and come here behind the mic and tell you that I'm the least bit encouraged about what I saw from any of them. And I know, hey, I got too many flaws to even mention. We could go 7, 10, 20, 100 shows talking about my flaws, and we still wouldn't be close to covering them all. Okay, I'm not throwing the stone from a glass house, but these people have chosen to run for president of the United States. They're asking for our vote. They're saying, vote for me, look at me. You will see that I'm the one that needs to lead us out of this abyss and back into prosperity. That's what they're asking us, every single one of them. And all I saw last night, and it was so sad, is I saw such a stark lack of maturity from a party that constantly criticizes the opposing party, Democrats, in particular the woke left, as being naive, immature, behaving in a childish manner. That's what we saw in abundance last night. You know, as I was watching it, and I think most of you would agree that are listening or watching right now, fear is a really powerful thing in one's life. Love is really powerful, and love can conquer fear. But man, you really have to work hard at having love in your life to beat fear, because our first instincts when faced in situations that are uncomfortable for us or scary for us, or the fear we may lose something that we really want or not get something we really, really want, whether it's a relationship, money, a position in life, running for president. The fear of not getting that can really wreak havoc with who you are as a person. It can make you forsake basic principles, virtues that you hold dear, can make you, if you let yourself be so fearful, violate it and toss them out the window. Things like kindness and respect for others, even the principle of being still and letting God do His work. If you get scared enough, you're fearful enough, you can forsake just about anything. And last night, what I think I saw, and I've done a lot of thinking about it because I was so very disappointed. And I know the format. You have 7 candidates, and they only have a limited amount of time. But still, it's no excuse because they had a chance to draw a distinction between them and the Democrats, that last debacle they had during their election. But I saw last night 7 very scared candidates. Scared to the point where they would say anything, do anything, if they thought it was going to enhance their chances of being the nominee or being considered for vice president or just coming across well to the American public. And one of the things fear can do to you, again, I don't think there's one good thing that fear. I mean, now there's such thing as righteous fear. You should make sure that, your parachute is packed by a professional. You should be fearful. Hey, that thing may not open. I'm going to make sure I get the best person to do that. Best person, doctor possible to operate on you. If you want to, we're talking about a completely different kind of fear. I think you know what I'm talking about. Again, fear, what I'm talking about is fear of not getting something you want, not really something that you really need. Because something that you really need, you do your best, let God do the rest, and keep moving forward. But fear, one of the negative things, the many negative things that fear gives birth to, is desperation. And what we saw last night, I feel, was 7 desperate people trying to hang on to what chance they had to be a nominee, which they both have to have this battle going on in their mind. Look, I'm in this thing. I don't know if I should have got in it or not. I'm talking, for example, Mike Pence. I think I know why Mike Pence got into it. I don't think Mike Pence thought he had a chance to win the nomination, but I think there's a reason why he got into it. I think he made the most sense. Pence made sense. But they've got to be saying, this is absolutely for second place or what have you. If you're talking about actually being part of the presidential election in a meaningful way, they got to be asking yourself, why did I do this? Some of them on there are saying that. They're in so deep. Doug Burgum, I think Doug Burgum knows he's not going to be elected. He's got a lot of money. I think he's probably trying to just not come out of it a nothing burger and come out as unknown as he was when he started, if you will, to try to get at least some positive press nationally in what he's done in I think it's South Dakota where he was the governor. But it was so sad to watch these people yelling over each other. The party, and I would imagine there are a lot of fathers, and Nikki Haley's a mother up there, that would, I'm sure every one of them who had kids would tell their kids, look, don't yell over people. Arguing and trying to yell over people accomplishes nothing. And if you have a moderator, your teacher, and there's an argument in class, and the teacher says, be quiet, class, be quiet. You need to respect your teacher. You need to respect the moderator. I can't tell you how many, several of those candidates were on stage last night. I heard personally ridicule the Democrats during the 2020 campaign and the debates they had, how childish they were, you couldn't understand anything they were saying because they were talking over each other. Well, there you go. You got to be better than what you criticize, or don't criticize it. And I think I'm going to go through each candidate how I think they did. But the one I was most disappointed in, again, and it's the guy I think has the best chance and who I think could make a great president, that's Ron DeSantis. And ironically, the quality I'm looking for is somebody to emerge that you see this individual, whether it's Nikki Haley, a woman, one of the guys up there, that says, look, I'm above all of this nonsense, all of this craziness. Last night, if DeSantis would have, he's right in the center, because he, I guess, is ahead a little bit in the polls ahead of Nikki Haley, and the poll leader gets center stage. And all of this stuff started because it was embarrassingly bad how they yelled over each other, hoping that they would be the one with the loudest voice that would shut down everybody else so they'd have 15 seconds to say something that would change the minds of America. They would have this, oh my God, I can't believe Nikki Haley said it's her Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, that just changes my mind. I haven't heard a line like that since Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Since John Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country. Wow, it's a silly thought. If you outshout somebody and suddenly everybody quiets down and you're still left hanging there with your 15 seconds, they've already tuned you out. Nobody wins a turd fight without coming out stinking like a turd. And that's what it was last night. There was no winner in a turd fight. I hate to be that crude, but that's what it was. And I wish DeSantis would have said something like this, because all their consultants, I'm telling you, these consultants, I don't know where they get them from. I mean, they were telling Tim Scott, you need to be more mean. No, you don't. People are looking for somebody, not how long you get, how many minutes you get to explain yourself, because we all have heard the canned responses from Nikki Haley to Vivek Ramaswamy to Tim Scott, all of them. Burgum, we've heard his now. It's pretty good. Hadn't heard a lot from him because he was obscure. But now we've heard him a couple of times. But we want to see how you handle yourself under pressure. When you may get voted off the island, if Dana Perino said it. Boy, what a big mistake that was for her to do that. That's so below Dana Perino. I'll get to that in a moment. But knowing full well, the odds of you having that moment that's going to just sway people, Nikki Haley supported to come over to DeSantis, or Tim Scott supported to come over to Vivek because of what you say there. But how you handle yourself in that circumstance could help elevate you above the pack, could put you, you could get a bump on that. So what do I mean by that? Let me just suggest this to the DeSantis campaign. I don't think you're going to have 7 on the stage again. I think they learned a lesson. I think at least 3 of them are going to be gone. I'll give you my idea who I think those 3 are. So you'll have probably 4 at the next debate, which is still enough to have a good turd fight if you choose to do so. But once all that stuff started, yelling over each other, to just this cacophony of nonsense sound that just driving, you saw it, the folks that saw it, you know what I'm talking about, or heard it on radio. And it just went on and on for 2 hours. Somebody would talk, and then you'd have this everybody talking at once, just completely disregarding Stuart Varney. And I think Dana Perino had to threaten to cut off Bergen's mic before they settled down. But if DeSantis would have just stayed there in the middle and just looked calmly to his left, calmly to his right, well, Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy on one side, Nikki on the other side, going at each other, spit flying out their mouth and probably hitting DeSantis in the face. Just very casually wipe the spit off your face. Look back and forth at them, acting like the juveniles that they are really. When you act like that, you are how you act, you are how you behave, at least at that moment. They were like little children, out of control children. And then when he was called upon to ask a question, I would have said something like this. Dana, Stewart, we're going to get nothing out of this debate, everybody talking at once. And I know I want to get my ideas of where I want to lead this country to the American people. I'm ready to do that, and in a very condensed period of time. I understand the challenges of having 7 people on the debate stage. I'm willing to do that. What I'm not going to do is sit here and try to out-shout Nikki Haley on my left, Vivek Ramaswamy on my right, Bergen, Chris Christie, all of everybody yelling at once. I'm just not going to participate. So I'd like to give my time to these folks to continue to yell and scream at each other if that's how they choose to use the time that I'm giving them. And then when they make the decision to calm down, play by the rules, and listen to you, the moderator, and start being civil to one another, then I'll participate. And you know what? I think the people of America understand that. And I think they would want that. And we owe it to them to behave in a mature way, because the issues in this country, facing the country, are so important to be trivialized by this screaming and yelling match that nobody could understand is a betrayal of the people. So I'm just going to, so don't call on me. Don't call on me if this is still going on. I'll take the consequences of not participating with the American public. I will take, if I dive in the polls for this, so be it, because nobody gets anything out of this. If he would have said something like that and stuck with it, just sat there, I think, number one, it would have had a calming effect on that debate for everyone except perhaps Chris Christie, because he went WWE last night. He hadn't listened to anybody. His hate for Trump is so off the charts. What a reason to run for president. Not because you want to do something you feel you can lead the country for. You just hate somebody so much. You know, they insulted you. Well, maybe that's the Jersey way, as he likes to say. I'm from New Jersey. And there's some stuff I like about Chris Christie, but he's totally lost control. He's got, Trump has not only rented space in Chris Christie's head, he's bought a whole condo. He's got a Trump tower built in Chris Christie's head. And I don't know what he's going to do with Trump. I guess if Trump goes to prison, I guess Christie will just continue to say, well, what cell block is he in? I hope he's in solitary. Okay. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm just going to go down to each one real quickly, give my take on the debate last night. And then hopefully we'll have enough time to talk about the so-called existential threat of climate change. I'm not going to get deep in the woods, but I'm going to bring something up I think you might be interested, just in comparison, in contrast to what the folks are pushing forward. I think you might find interesting. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat, Thunderous Thursday. We'll be right back. I love you, folks. Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you lately that I care? I haven't, but I do. I'm telling you now. Thank you for tuning in. I just have so much fun. Our little Autry's Army. And I'm going to start I know I sound like a broken record. I just want to slap myself. I sound like some politician saying, oh, I'm going to do this, do that. And I'm up here preaching. Do what you say what you're going to do what you're going to say, walk your talk, all that. But I am going to start getting back to folks via the email. We're making a move from this studio to the next. I've got a few things that are pressing on my plate right now, professionally and family-wise, that I've got to deal with. But I'm keeping the file there, and I'm going to get back to y'all because I appreciate you so much. And we're going to have a way to interact as well, like we used to back in the old days on the show. So just hang in there. But I appreciate you all so much. Are we ready to come
maybe
back
like
on?
20 seconds from
okay.
it?
What psalm is it? 40? We got to remember Psalm 40. Just be still and know that I'm God. All the anxiety, all the stuff going on in the world. Sometimes we forget who's in charge. We got the most powerful. Ready? Okay. Coming back on the
air. This hour of the Alan Autry Show is sponsored by Simlaw, the most realistic artificial grass in the Central Valley.
And welcome back to Alan Autry, No Retreat, Thunderous Thursday. Before we get to the breakdown, my little analysis of the debate last night, I didn't plan on spending the first whole segment of the show criticizing it, but dadgummit, they got to get better. They just got to get better. They got to learn. They got to just God. Well, I want to really sound like an old fogey here, but dadgummit, 7 candidates and Trump. Grow up. You all want to be Reagan. I got news for you. Reagan was a grown, you know what, man. He was a grown up. He conducted himself as an adult. It says in the Bible, when I was a child, I acted as a child. When I became grow up, I acted as a grown up. Paraphrasing, but just a little bit. He said, you put away childish things. One of the childish things you put away, even in politics, don't yell over each other. When you know the public's watching, who's going to win that? But anyway, okay. So I'm a little triggered on that. But before we get to the rundown, I want to point out some continual hypocrisy on the mainstream media. They're very quick, they meaning the mainstream media, to jump on this so-called conservative Supreme Court when they send Roe versus Wade back to the states, when they say, hey, look, you shouldn't base a promotion on race only, that it should be the content of the character, not the color of the skin that determines whether you get government, whatever, in government promotion or discriminations at play. You just can't use skin color as the only or even a part of a discriminatory policy. Quick to criticize the Supreme Court as being racist. But I don't know if you've kept up with this latest Supreme Court decision, but the Supreme Court, the so-called racist Supreme Court, the white supremacist Supreme Court, has told the state of Alabama that they upheld a appellate court's decision that said the redistricting lines that were drawn by the Alabama legislature, which was primarily white, it was not fair to some of the minority enclaves that reside in that state, that they were gerrymandered improperly. That's what the appellate court said. Well, it went before the Supreme Court. Folks, the legislature, the Alabama legislature, put it before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court agreed to hear it, and they sided with the appellate. They said, no, this. You got to go back and you got to fix this thing because it's unfair to those minority districts. Yes, that racist Supreme Court just sent that message back to Alabama. But you don't hear CNN, you don't hear, I mean, they'll touch on it because they can say, yeah, we covered it for about 10 seconds. But anyway, I wanted to highlight that this Supreme Court, I think, is a very courageous Supreme Court. I think they're adhering to what they're supposed to be doing. And their main or their only purpose is to interpret to the best of their abilities, to interpret the Constitution and to rule on laws or actions on the basis of whether they're constitutional or unconstitutional. It's when the Supreme Court steps out of that and wants to start making legislation that you get in trouble. Because that is the founding fathers put in place this wonderful system, even though it's not perfect, but it's the most perfect system that's ever been tried in the history of mankind if you value individual liberties and if you believe that if you let government run amok, it's eventually going to abuse people with their power, which history has proven that that's what happens. So anyway, kudos to the Supreme Court for what appears to be a very, very wise decision. Okay, quick, let's go down the line of the debate last night. Let's start with Ron DeSantis. Had some moments where you saw, I think, a glimpse of someone you could say, now that's pretty presidential. I could see that guy sitting down looking eye to eye with Xi Jinping and really being able to stand by American policies, if not to decouple from China, at least have the discussions and the commitment to renegotiate these things, if you will, to correct this outsourcing in particular of 92% of our antibiotics, of the real essential antibiotics. Not all antibiotics are made in China, but some of the essential ones are made there. We need to bring those home. And I saw last night moments, but I don't know. I think the guy, and I'm not trying to be funny here, I really believe it. He's either drinking too much coffee chugging down too many Red Bulls before he goes on because he is just wound tight. He's ready to jump. You can see it. And one thing as an actor, you take some acting classes back in the day, you find out very quickly that when you're communicating to an audience, it's not just your words. A lot of actors get caught up wanting to do these soliloquies, doing these Shakespearean things. To be or not to be, and then, 5.5 page monologue. You think that that's acting and communicating. Well, your body is communicating as well. This whole thing you call your body is your instrument, if you will. And let's face it, when you're a candidate, you're performing, you're acting. Now, it might be sincere acting, but you're acting. You're putting on a performance. And how you communicate with your audience is very, very critical. And you look at the movie stars, the ones that are timeless, the people that really like, that are really liked, they had a certain likability about them. John Wayne really wasn't a great actor, but he was likable in his voice and his mannerisms. Even when he played bad guys, you kind of liked him, even during playing the Searchers. But these folks' body language was just all over this, everything that they were doing, including DeSantis, who had his firm grip on the lectern there. But he needs to, I feel, become more genuinely relaxed, not aloof, but more relaxed, and cut out some of the really harsh rhetoric trying to appeal to the Republican base. I think it was a bad mistake to come in saying, I'm going to slit throats to cut government jobs when you come in. Don't use that. He said cut government jobs. Reagan would never say something like that, and a good politician never. And I'd stop using a golfing term, saying we don't get a mulligan. You want to appeal to the poor community who will never hold a golf club in their hand ever. My dad worked out on the farm. He was never going to play one round of golf. He would know a putter from a driver or a baseball bat. And you're going up saying, well, you don't get mulligans. That kind of subliminally is an elite term. Because I'll go ahead, I'll say, you got to have some dough if you're going to play golf. It's an expensive sport. And you want it. So I know that might be nitpicking, but not. You got words mean things. They really do. So stop saying we don't get a mulligan, But most of all, I think he needs to be less frenetic, less take that energy, harness it, and be above the fray. Vivek, you've got to come up with some new material or a new way to deliver the new material. Very compelling on YouTube. That's where I discovered him. Like what he stands for, like a lot of his ideas, but you got to find some more nuanced ways to deliver that because it's starting to sound canned. You've heard it over and over and over again. Now, in all defense to him, you can say the same thing over and over again, but you got to say it a different way. You got to be nuanced. Reagan made the same speech for almost 4 decades. He gave the same in terms of content: smaller government, strong national defense, rugged individualism, lower taxation, peace through strength. But each speech he would massage it, and he would mix it up, and he would to keep it interesting, and it always seemed fresh when he delivered it. So he needs to come up with that, and then this whole thing about trying to get China to break up in their bromance with Russia is a fool's errand. That's not going to happen. They have put together BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and it seems like every day there's another African country that a military dictator takes over and becomes an ally with BRICS. You're going to have to find a way as a president to coexist with a lot of this evil in the world and with systems that you don't agree with. You're not going to, number one, they're neighbors. It would be like, I don't know, Xi Jinping coming over and saying, look, we need you, because we have a lot of problems with Canada. We need for you to decouple from South America and Canada. And you tell them, look, hey, that's easy for you to say. These two countries in our own backyard, their instability is going to blow over into our country, i.e. the border, 8 million people that we don't know coming from. We've got to partner with them. We've got what happens there is something we have to be interested in. We can't decouple from Mexico and Canada. China and Russia right in the same neighborhood. Ukraine, that so it's silly. to try to get China to go to rehab and get off of the addiction to Russian oil. They're not going to go to rehab. They don't want to go to rehab. In fact, their mission is to get a bunch of other countries around the world to get hooked on the oil as well, and they're doing a dang good job. So get off of that. Mike Pence, I think Mike Pence, mission accomplished. What you wanted to do, I think what he wanted to do. It's just my gut feeling, no real evidence to go on. But I think Mike knew he was not going to get the nomination. He was not Trump enough to get Trump's people. The controversy surrounding him on January 6th, all this stuff. He didn't really have a home, a rabid base that supported him that would, come hell or high water, there were going to be Pence people, not nearly a big enough demographic to even get close to being a president. But I think he wanted to run this exercise of running for president, to kind of clear his name, to get out there and show people on the right, look, I love Trump's policies, but I felt it was constitutionally not right for me to do what I was asked to do. Get out there and be able to say, hey, I represent values that you agree with. I didn't betray those values. And as he goes off into private business, whatever it is he's going to do, I think mission accomplished. I think he'll probably be one of the first ones to drop out. I think he may drop out by early next week, if not before. But Mike did all right, but he's not one that's going to inspire people. And I think he knows that, but I think he's a good man. Of course, we have here Burgum. I think Burgum got some great ideas, expresses himself well. Too little, too late, too much lack of name ID to have any chance of catching up, to be a factor in this race. I think down the line, he has put himself in the running for a cabinet position if the Republican wins. I think he could be a great Secretary of Agriculture. I think he would really be an asset to any administration, actually. So I think he did a good job. Nikki Haley, again, she made some good points. Again, I by hers, I am DeSantis. I look and I see, okay, I saw a little glimpse of a Margaret Thatcher there. I saw someone who I could trust as president of the United States, level-headed. I think if she adjusted some things, don't become, and when I say this, I know that criticism is going to come back. Oh, because she's a woman. In fact, I look forward to a woman being president of the United States. They say, is America ready? Yes. America was ready for a black president way before Barack Obama. America has come a long, long way. Most Americans care about policies. They don't care what color that policy is coming back from them, out of them. If the policy is coming to destroy your livelihood, like the new Green Deal with these United Auto Workers going to put half of that workforce out of business, they don't care if that's a white person, black person, brown person, whatever. They don't care about the color. What's the policy? And they put policy over personality. Why? Because personality doesn't take food off your table or put food on your table. Policies do. Bad policies can literally take food off your table. Good policies can actually put food on your table. Good policies can stoke an environment that will allow you to open a small business and chase the American dream. Bad policies can be so onerous and put so many regulations on you that you couldn't start up a hot dog stand and make a profit at all. I'm talking about $1 profit. So America was ready. They bought into Barack Obama's thing about change. I think his personality, quite honestly, made people not listen to his policies enough, and we paid an awful price. I saw right through him because I'd been in the acting business for 25 years. Because when a person says they're going to do something, you got to look at their track record. and say, is there any indication of what they've already done that would make you think they would do what they say they're going to do? Or what they say they're going to do is totally incongruous to what they have done, totally opposite. Then you got to say, what? And that was the case with Obama. I think hopefully the nation learned something, but apparently not, because they elected Obama again through Joe Biden. Joe Biden was going to be, the gentle old man that was going to bring the country together, yet his policies were toxic. He didn't believe there's no red states or blue states, the United States. He didn't believe that for an instant, neither did Barack Obama. They absolutely knew there was a difference between Illinois and Texas. And he didn't want any part of Texas policy. You bring Texas into Illinois and say, okay, it's a purple state now. His policy showed that he was talking, as the Indians say, a forked tongue on both sides of his mouth. But have we left anybody out, Jeremy? I know we have, and I'm going to be Chris Christie. I did touch on that, but come on, Christie couldn't wait to go WWE. I mean, you talk about losing what little credibility you had, and going from serious leader in New Jersey to pretty good candidate for president to this Trump hater that has completely lost his way. And now you had one foot in the semi being taken serious world and one leg in Jokeville. Well, last night you put both feet now in Jokeville. You'll never be taken serious again by really anybody. When you choose to use some of that precious time, which you're screaming over each other to get the mic, and you happen to be called upon, or I don't know when he said this, I think maybe you want the screaming match and everybody shut up and his mic, he was able to be alone on the mic. I don't know what, I can't remember what the circumstance was. But you choose to use that time to look straight in the camera and talk to Donald Trump and say, I want to talk directly to Trump. And I know you're listening. I know you're watching Trump. I know you can't help yourself. I mean, going full Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Savage. And let me tell you, Trump, you insult everybody here on this stage. And I'm telling you, I'm not going to start calling you Donald Trump anymore. I'm going to stop calling you Donald Trump and start calling you Donald Duck. Oh, my gosh. Oh, did I just hear that? I actually had to run it back. I actually stopped the debate, ran it back, and said, did I really hear this? Because I was making a sandwich when I heard it. I didn't just hear that. I didn't. No. Chris Christie would not go there. I mean, to do what he was doing, look in the camera and shoot and go at WWE, but then use a really non-funny line like that. I ran it back, and sure enough, that's what he said. And I just, anyway, I expect, I was talking to Eric Rollins. I said, Eric, who do you think is going to drop out? I think Pence is going to drop out. Probably Burgum. It's about Chris Christie. And Eric says, no, his ego won't let it. And you know what? He's probably right. He's probably raising enough of that Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff money to kind of keep him going for a little bit and keep but his poll numbers are starting to plummet as well. How much time we got, Jeremy? 8:58. Okay. Okay. Am I leaving anyone out? Have I not? Is there somebody out there that I have not criticized? But hey, hopefully it's constructive criticism. I think it's earned. Again, like I said, I'm a registered independent. Most of my political beliefs line up with the Republican Party. I'm pro-life, I'm pro-defense, I'm pro-business, I'm anti-racism of any kind. And just, the old thing, if it don't broke, if it's not broke, don't fix it type thing. But looking forward to innovative things and unleashing the entrepreneurial spirit of American people. Those are all conservative principles. And I'm seeing more and more people on the left starting to not be fearful. And we talked about fear to early part of the show. I think a lot of fear has kept a lot of people on the left from expressing their support of a lot of these so-called conservative beliefs. Take conservative out of it. Just call them common sense American values. Yeah, government should be the referee. If businesses are becoming dominant, like Theodore Roosevelt, he was the old trust buster. If a company gets too big, they start abusing and cannibalizing other companies, like Amazon, like Walmart was doing, Facebook, those type of things. Sure, government comes in and say, hey, you're not playing the game fair. You can't play 11-man football against 8-man football like they're doing in Ukraine. It's not fair. To do that, to cannibalize the smaller businesses. But when you say, look, I don't think it's right to overregulate. Like here in California, you have so many regulations from onerous workers' compensation fees you have to pay, taxes on top of taxes upon top of taxes, this tax, that new Green Deal tax, on top of all of the other things you have to deal with to keep a small business running, not just during the good times, but being able to persevere and sail that ship through rough waters like a pandemic. Or you can't make it through those difficult times in small business. If your ship is weighted down with so many government regulations that your private sector, that you're left with having to lay off all of your employees, or you can't make it. And when you look at it, you say, well, I can't run a business without at least a couple employees. I'm already working myself 12 hours a day. I cut the 2 employees I think there's more support and understanding on the left that would not speak up about that out of fear of being called a MAGA supporter and getting canceled or not getting invited to that dinner party or having one of the celebrities come out during the concert and criticize you. So, but I think that's starting to change. I'm starting to see it on CNN last night during the analysis on CNN with Abby Phillip, which I happen to like. This Abby Phillip, she's definitely a Democrat. There's no doubt about that. But I don't see a real woke left. And she's one of the main anchors they brought in at CNN to kind of move back to the middle a little bit. But she was on there with David Axelrod, even Anderson Cooper, and they were talking about Trump as the nominee and how formidable he would be, how he would probably win. And I was waiting for one of the guests to say, yeah, and that really amazes me that the right, the MAGA supporters, the Republicans can support a guy that has 19 indictments against him that could be going to prison. What's wrong with these people? How can they support him? That's, without exception, what would happen on that discussion about Trump being a candidate. It didn't happen last night. It didn't happen because I watch this stuff, too much of this stuff. Watch too much Fox, too much CNN. But as Larry Elder says, I watch it so you don't have to. So I can bring it. It's very interesting that aspect, that rebuttal from Trump being, and Axelrod even said, I think Trump can beat Biden. That would have never been uttered a few months ago because Axelrod would have been, what are you doing? You're helping Trump's cause. Some of these folks are starting in the media to speak out because, and I think it's because there comes a time when it's right before you. You think you can't believe your eyes. Well, I prefer to use an Eagles term analogy on that. You can't hide your lion eyes. You can't. You people are seeing through the folks that say the border's secure. They're seeing through Mayorkas, the folly of that, the insulting nature of that, to tell the American people, including the left, that the border's safe when they've just shipped in 50,000 illegal immigrants into your neighborhood in New York, the bastion of liberalism. And they're looking at them sleeping out on the sidewalks. And Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and Mayorkas and Gavin Newsom saying there is no crisis at the border. The border's fine. The border's closed. I think some folks, the clear-thinking people on the left who've been afraid, have said, you know what? I just can't do it anymore. If this is going to mean Trump's going to get elected, so what? I just can't sleep at night, going to bed, having covered for this insanity called an open border, defund the police, a 3-year-old being able to pick their gender and going through and having their privates cut off and castrated and supporting that. I just can't do it anymore. It's been a year and a half since I've been able to really, really, really look into a mirror. I mean, just really look in a mirror, make sure my makeup's on right, or make sure the guy's hair's done right. Because I can't look in that mirror anymore because I don't like who's looking back at me. Because I just can't cover for this insanity anymore that's hurting so many people, not just MAGA people, not just the guy who sings, Richmond, north of Richmond, even my kids who are on the far left. I've raised them to be as left could be. I mean, they got posters of Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, Khrushchev, but I still can't support this craziness of an open border with 10 million people coming in the last 2 years, and I don't know who they are, and 95% of them are young males. And I raised young males. Young male Americans' judgment is not good, and you see crime spiking and all. And pardon me if I have a little optimism here now, because it's going to take in this country some clear thinking people on the left, Democrats, willing to stand up and say, you know what? I think Trump's a doofus. I think he's rude. I don't like him. I don't want him coming to my city to speak. I don't want it. But that policy of stay in Mexico, I'm going to either have him do it or I'm going to demand that my candidate, Biden, Newsom, Kamala Harris, that you demand that they reinstitute the stay in Mexico. I'm going to demand that you say, hey, you got to wait till you're 18 before you let some child cut their breasts off and regret it later and have chemical castration. And I'm going to say, hey, there's some bad policemen, but I'm not going to beat up on police so we don't have no police really to patrol the neighborhoods. And I'm going to stand up going, how much more can we tax and spend and run deficits to where my money means nothing? I feel I feel the tide starting to turn. Maybe I'm wrong. It could be. It won't be the first time I've been wrong, but I got that feeling. And folks, thank you for tuning in on Thunderous Thursday. Love you so much. God bless you. God bless America, and just do your best and let God do the rest. And I promise you, it may not turn out momentarily like you like it, but in the long run, it's going to be good for you. Just trust God, do your best, let Him do the rest. See you all tomorrow on Friday. Bye-bye now. Who cares about the clouds?